I do not own the rights to this music. Hello, and welcome to Sunday School Summary with Brother Ron. Sunday School lesson for Sunday, July the 27th, 2025. Our reference material for the Sunday School Summary is based upon the International Sunday School Lesson Series as published by the Sunday School Publishing Board. We are discussing Worship, Sacrifice, and Offering as the title of the 2025 Summer Lesson Series. And the lesson series studies the beginning of altar and sacrifices in worship, Jesus' worship and conduct and relations in the temple. And the lesson concludes with the study of the meaning and offerings and sacrifices for Christians under the new covenant. The title of our ninth lesson comes from Unit 2, and it reads, "The Harder They Fall" is the title of the lesson. The key verse comes from Matthew chapter 24, verse 2, and it reads, "So Jesus said to them, 'Yes, you can see all these beautiful buildings now, but I tell you this, enemies will completely destroy them, and not even one stone will remain on top of another stone.'" So Jesus was talking about the temple, and even though it was beautiful, he was saying that the only thing that endures is our eternal faith in God, that symbols and institutions pass. The title of today's lesson, "The Harder They Fall," from the book of Matthew. Now, the authorship of Matthew's Gospel, or Good News, is attributed to Matthew, also called Levi. And Matthew was a Jew and a hated tax collector before he became a disciple of Jesus. Matthew's Gospel was written to a Jewish audience. It is a record of Jesus' life, and it is in line with the books or Gospels of Mark and Luke. Matthew records Jesus' tour of the Galilean region during his 3.5-year ministry. Teaching, healing, and miracles went viral, and he drew large crowds of followers at each stop. And he rapidly spread throughout the region. The crowds were amazed by the miracles that Jesus performed in raising the dead and healing the sick. However, many were angered, and Jesus' ministry clashed with the Pharisees and the teachers of the law. In our previous lesson, Jesus denounced the vendors and the religious leaders who allowed the temple to become a marketplace and den of robbers, which brings us to today's lesson. There are two summary lesson points for today. The temple will fall, and that's from Matthew chapter 24, verses 1 through 3. And signs of the end times, and that's from Matthew chapter 24, verses 4 through 8 and 15 through 24. The passages for the lesson today revolve around the key words of faith, wisdom, and sign. And we know that faith is the complete trust, assurance, belief, or confidence in God. It is the faith in Jesus to always be prepared for the coming of the Messiah, because only God knows the day or the hour of his coming in today's lesson. Wisdom is the ability to apply experience, knowledge, and understanding to produce good judgment. It is the wisdom to apply discernment and not be deceived by false messiahs in today's lesson. Sign, it's an object, quality, event, or entity whose presence or occurrence indicates the probable presence or occurrence of something else. It is the disciples asking for a definite time, event, or miracles that would signal Christ's return in today's lesson. The temple will fall is our first summary point from Matthew chapter 24, verses 1 through 3. And these passages, Jesus talks about the condition and the ability of the temple to endure. Jesus left the temple after he had clashed with the Pharisees, and while he was leaving, his disciples came to him and they began to talk to him about the building of the temple. And Jesus said to them, "You see all these beautiful buildings now, but I tell you that enemies will completely destroy them, and not even one stone will remain on top of another stone." And after that, Jesus was sitting on the Mount of Olives, and while he was alone, his disciples came to him for further clarification. And they said to him, "Please tell us when these things will happen, or the sign that they're looking for, and also tell us what will show us that you will soon return. What will show us that the world will soon end?" So they are thinking in terms of Jesus coming and the end of the world. And Jesus said that there were signs of the time in his response. He said, "You must be careful." He says, "Some people will tell you things that are not true." And he says, "Do not believe them." He says, "Many people will say that they've come on my behalf. They will say I'm the Messiah. And some people will believe them, but they are false words." And he says, "You would hear wars and rumors of wars." And he says, "But you should not be afraid." He says, "Those things must happen first, but it's not the end of everything. It's only the beginning." He says, "People in one country will attack those in another country, and armies will fight against others, kings and their armies." And he says, "In some places there will be hungry with no food, and there will be earthquakes." And he says, "All these things will be like the first pains that a mother has before her baby is born." So these are the signs that we are beginning to live in the end, not the end itself. And he says that verse 15 of Matthew chapter 24 reads, he says, "Long ago, the prophet Daniel in the Bible spoke about these things that they would happen." And he said, one day people would put a disgusting thing that causes trouble in the temple, and you will see it in the holy places. And he says, when you read it, you should understand what it means. He says that at the time when those things happen, he says that the people in Judea must run away to the hills to hide. And he said that person who is on his roof of his house must not go into his house. He must not stop to get anything from his home to take with him. And people who are outside in their fields must not go back to their homes to get their coats. And he said that there will be bad times for women who are soon to have a baby, and it will be a bad thing for women who have little babies. And he says you must pray to God about this time when you have to run away quickly. Pray that this time of trouble will not happen in winter. Pray that it will not happen on your day of rest. He says great troubles will happen to people at that time. So he's speaking of the tribulations, and when the tribulation comes, you will not have time to prepare then. So you have to move with haste. And he says great trouble will happen to people at that time. And he says nothing has ever happened before as bad has happened before, and since the beginning of the world. And nothing as bad will have ever happen again. So this is a great tribulation that he is talking about. And he is saying that people should be prepared. And he says God will cause those days of great trouble to be not so many. And he says if he did, there would be no one left alive. And he says, but God will cause those days to come to an end. And he will do that to help the people that he has chosen. And those are the people whose faith endures to the end. They will be saved after this great tribulation. And he says at that time, someone may say to you, look, here's the Messiah, or they may say, there he is. When they say it, do not believe them, he says, because some people will say to you, I'm the Messiah. And other people will say, I am a prophet from God, but their words are false. And he says they will do strange things and powerful things for people to see, to impress the people. And he says if it were possible, they would even deceive those people that are chosen by God. But if we remain faithful to God to the end, we will be able to discern the false prophets and the false Messiah. And then we will be the elect that God will choose. This is Brother Ron with the Sunday School lesson for Sunday, July the 27th, 2025. Thank you for watching. Have a blessed week, and we hope to see you next Sunday for another edition of Sunday School Summary with Brother Ron.